This is recording 836. The name of this podcast episode is Listen Next, 836. It's a part of my podcast series, Speaking to the CIA. You can find me at ChristinaStation918.com or SpeakingToTheCIA.com. Okay, so I want to continue on. So what I'm going to talk about in this podcast is I'm going to go over more decode with you, but it's a collection of decode that I have decoded and worked on, and then people have communicated to me in mental telepathy and have contributed, figured out more. So it's gonna be all over the place, but it's kind of one of those podcasts where it's a bunch of everything, but everything is significant. So more reports I'm making against the Jean Jernigan Roberts of Milton, Florida. All of these reports are against her. You know her plot. You know her lies. You know her con. So, as I said, I'm going to continue to make reports against her. So, okay, this is where I want to pick up. So, I wanted to bring up, I've talked about this before in a previous podcast, but I wanted to bring it up again. I wanted to talk again about when I was in Dallas and the situation that I was in at the time. There were gigantic snakes underneath me. Underneath the ground, underneath the floor. I made reports. I was scared to death. I even think that I had a heart attack. But I'm like, I don't know if that was a heart attack or not. It literally felt like my heart like picked up out of my chest and like did like a somersault, did like a flip. And this is what happened. That there were multiple large snakes underneath me. And one of the snakes that was underneath me, somebody told me it was called a quarterback snake. It was very aggressive. All the snakes were aggressive. But I was so used to them being underneath me, I got to know their temperament. So the quarterback snake, it was wider than the other snakes. I could feel the width. I could feel them. I could feel the width of the snake, and it was wide. It was probably about the width of probably wider than a twin bed width. It was wide, that big. The other snakes, and I don't know what it looked like. I just know how wide it was, and I knew its behavior, its pattern. The other snakes, the ones that I were told were called African fire-breathing snakes. And I know that Gene Roberts tried to white people that here, trying to cause a major distraction. Okay, so the African fire-breathing snakes are black snakes. Okay, and I told you I made a podcast, I made reports about the African fire-breathing snakes, and there were several of those, okay? And so those blow up hot fumes, okay? And it stings. I went to sleep and I woke up the next morning and my legs felt like death. They felt like a sponge. And I was like, what is the matter with my legs? They were like halfway numb. And they were just like spongy and wet and soppy. Like wet, like a hard biscuit that got dunked in water. Just like I'm like, what is wrong with my legs? my legs were like totally screwed up. And anyway, so they blow up this stinging, so you can't take it when it's blowing fumes up. You can't take it for but a second or two. I mean, like stinging, burning, like fumes. Okay, so you have to constantly move around, and wherever you go, Jean Roberts had the snake scented, so wherever you go, and she had it scented to, she scented them to several things. She scented them to my clothes. She scented them to bleach. She scented them to toothpaste, and she scented them to blood, which is natural. And she scented them to smoke. Okay, so they knew my smell, and before she would get ready to like really attack me with a snake, she would use robotic technology on me, which she still does today. She would chomp my teeth on my tongue or my cheek. I have naturally chubby cheeks, and being fat now, my cheeks, you can imagine, are really chubby, so it's really easy for her to like bite a freaking chunk out of my cheek by clenching my jaws or smashing my jaws. So what she does is she wants to draw blood. Okay, she wants me bleeding, because as soon as I start bleeding, instantly, if the snakes are in another location, instantly they're like, and they're right underneath me. Okay, so there were several of them, and those snakes are huge snakes. Those snakes, as I told you, they run in the United States. I got more information later after I moved to Dallas on what was going on with the snakes. In the United States, those snakes are everywhere, underground everywhere. They're by the trillions upon trillions, and they're all over the world. They're everywhere, okay? Anyway, those snakes run here about 20 feet long. I think they said 20 to 25 feet long. I actually ran over one, which I told you in my previous podcast. I actually ran over one trying to outrun, because some of them had gotten up above ground. There was a major snake run, and some of them had gotten up above ground and gotten out loose in Dallas. And I know they're still out loose out there today. God knows what's going on down there with them, like trying not to freak out the public. And I can't imagine like what's really going on that nobody knows about, that everybody knows about. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, so like they don't want to freak out the public, saying that there's wild snakes underneath everybody everywhere, and also loose because they want out of the ground. So they make their way out of the ground. So you're like, you know this is happening, but nobody's telling you this is happening. So while nobody's telling anybody what's happening, can somebody tell somebody what's happening? So I bet you there's a lot of that going on. But anyway, so they run about 20 to 25 feet long. The snake that I ran over the back tail of it, and I saw it in my rear view mirror. I ran over it with my Santa Fe, my old car, and it was literally like freaking four-wheeling. I was trying to outrun them. I was scared to death I was gonna die. I looked in my rear view mirror, and I could see, because my car went, I was like, oh my God, I hit one. I ran one over. And when you're in scared fear mode like that, it's so weird. You flip into like, you think you're when you're in total fear, total survival mode, you flip into you are invincible. Not like invincible, like arrogant, like you will it's your fight for survival instinct that kicks in. And you see that in the movies, and I know men experience this. I know men know this. You could tell talk about it firsthand. But as a female, it's insane to have experienced that as a female. Like, and I'm somewhat in that mode now still, because I know what's going on. I know, and my desperation is making the world aware of it, world leaders aware of it. And the more I make the world leaders aware, the more world leaders are in control of honest, true knowledge of what's going on everywhere, and can make the best effective decisions around the planet worldwide without any deception or treachery or undermining or any icing by Jean Roberts and her Manson occult, which is a prevalent issue around the world. She ripped off AI. So anyway, which is my whole deal, is she's got this terror plot. This is how this intertwines here. This is where this intertwines there. She's got to be removed from this. Like, I'm not giving, sorry, she's trying to control my speech. I'm not giving advice on proceeding, which is what Jean's fantasy is, which is why she's controlling my voice. I'm saying, while you're doing your your daily worldly duties that are on your agenda, you also need to know this is going on. Okay? And it is an emergency, but it is an emergency that does not need to cause a public panic, but it is also an emergency that does not need to be micromanaged or smoothed over or shoved down or sub-controlled again by Jean Roberts and her Manson occult, because that festers more anger. So, which festers more vigilantism, it festers more. She's committing the terror attacks. And what she wants is spawn off terror attacks, and then she wants to blame people. So I couldn't even tell you about spawn off terror attacks because I know how to decode crimes that Jean Roberts commits. So if you're not doing what Jean Roberts is doing, I don't even follow you. I don't pay attention. But if you're doing what Jean Roberts is doing, then I know you're taking orders, or it's Jean herself conducting the attack. So I know when it's Jean. I've been decoding her crimes for 10 years. So anyway, it needs to be mitigated and controlled, obviously, by world leaders in a way that doesn't cause a panic. So what we've got in place right now is Jean committing the crime, and then Jean trying to smooth everything and acting like she's going to be the savior, and she'll handle everything, and da-da-da-da-da. So that situation's not working. So I am so grateful to see on the news here in the USA. I know people are doing this overseas also in all other nations. I'm so grateful here in the USA that the news has really started to picking up on what's really going on. Not Jean's con trying to cause the circus show distraction, which is what she uses to fund all of this terrorism plot and scheming. But what's really going on, they're able to communicate that they know who's committing the crimes, they know the source of it, they know who I am, Christina Stacia, they know everything. So they're able to communicate that through the news and in the public, using the silent method that's everybody's picked up on, instead of it being Jean Roberts and running a circus freak show who is the culprit. She's the terrorist. So, and thinking she's going to get away with it. So anyway, So in England, when I was in Oklahoma City, England came on to talk to me. I got to meet the royal family for the first time. The first members I met of the royal family were Princess Diana's children. I got to talk to Saudi Arabia, and I got to talk to the royal family around in the same time period. They would go on. They arranged for time to be on in my brain and AI to find out what I had decoded, what's going on, and they specifically wanted to ask, because they didn't have a lot of time because of Gene. All they specifically wanted to ask is, what are the terror attacks that you know of? Tell us what you know that deals with our nation specifically. So I was able to communicate with them. Okay. So, anyway, Saudi Arabia asked me, and I said, I don't have anything concrete that I've decoded about Saudi Arabia, except for in Dubai, a skyscraper that is there, but she is putting that in my brain recently, and she's being funny about it, and it's making me mad and making me angry, but it's not anything that I've decoded as a cipher on paper. I just feel her, or I hear her instigating me, and it's like she's patting me on the head and just being stupid, and she's talking about terrorism. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to do this, and look, this is this, and this is that. You know what I'm saying? She's doing that in my brain. Like, it's funny, like it's a joke, like, ha ha. And so I said, I didn't decode anything on Saudi Arabia. That's all I can tell you. And they said, well, that is definitely, everything is important, and there's definitely something that we need to know. And somebody right now is pulling my mouth up and down. That is definitely something we need to know, because even her doing that to you doesn't mean it's to be it's a threat. It's a threat. So anyway, when I talked to England, I got to talk to them multiple times, and I know that they stay connected to me. They don't go through any of Jean Roberts and her circus and her route, and I know they are just, I know they've had it with Jean Roberts and her Manson occult. I know they have. But anyway, they came on. Her Princess Diana's children came on, and Prince. I don't know who I was talking to though. I'm sorry, she's controlling my speech. Prince Harry. I don't know both of your name. Prince Harry and Prince William. I'm sorry, I have short-term memory. She messes with my. I don't have short-term memory. She's planning on doing something with this recording, obviously, telling another lie. She blocks my short-term memory, as you guys know, and as you guys have been knowing. Anyway, so I don't remember. I know you told me who you were, but I can't remember. All I remember is talking to you about the snakes. And so somebody else was on in my brain, and I think it was hip hop. I think it was people in hip hop, celebrities on, because there was a lot of hip hop on at that time, figuring out everything that was going on. Man, there was a lot of tears shed. Oh my gosh. I'm bawling. I'm looking at my son. My son is like, I'm trying to communicate to him as simply as I can that Jean has committed terrorism. She did the World Trade Center attack, knowing, my son is an Afghan war vet. And he's dealing with his mom just getting clean and from a meth addiction, and it's like, here we go again, you know what I mean? He's like, you know what I'm saying? He's like, he just wants life to be normal, and I've got to find a way to tell him that I've been decoding ciphers of Gene Roberts since I was in Slidell, but actually before Slidell. But when I got to Slidell, like really started like hardcore documenting everything, decoding everything. I got to find a way to tell him what's in the future, because I know the future and I can see the future. And I'm looking at my son. I love him so much. He's an Afghan war vet, and I know the calling may go up again. You know, I'm sorry, she's controlling my speech. And so he may be called into duty again. I know this in the future. This is a real plausibility. It's called Gene. This makes me angrier than anything in the world. Everything Gene Roberts does is sick, and it's lies, and it's aimed at covering up her future terrorism plots, okay? And she makes a lot of money at it, and she has lied to and hurt a lot of people. Because, like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? But anyway, she makes a reference to Walking Dead, as in people that are alive, but she is killed off, and she just kills them to their death. And she calls them what they are, what she is. And you know what she is. And she's been that for 60 years. And so I don't want to hear any of it. That's your world. That's your life. You're freaking disgusting. You're freaking gross. And if she doesn't like you, she'll call you that. Or if she likes you, she'll call you that. This is all about ownership and trafficking, okay? So the people that are like that are her people. They run around helping her commit terrorism. And that goes into different there's all kinds of different groups of people that she's got in her umbrella of this, okay? So she's got some people that help run the rackets. She's got some people out there fooled into thinking they're out saving children and copying children. Like, Native Americans really got pissed because, which I'm getting ready to talk to you about in a minute, because she tried to hustle them big time. She lied about them, just like she lied about everybody else. And then she tried to hustle them, and there was no way for me to get through. I had lost communication. There was no way for me to get through until my podcast on what is really going on. And then Native Americans realized that Gene had set out to deceive them and rob them and use them, and they have become angry, and they have also become quiet. What I mean by quiet is they're preparing to take action the way the rest of the world is preparing to take action. For now, it is what it is. Gene has so many people con. There's so much mess everywhere. I mean, Gene has really done a number on people. So anyway, so she refers to those people as the Walking Dead. Now, this like kills me because she smited the military by doing that, because there is a term out there that is called it's not the Walking Dead. It is, it's now she's blinking my brain. I can't remember the raising of the dead. It's something, the raising of the dead, or It's in one of these podcasts. I can't remember what it is. The Raising of the Dead. So, what it is it's an all hands on deck situation for all military veterans, retired, active duty, everybody everywhere, like an all hands on deck situation, like in an apocalyptic situation. Like everybody jumps in, and it's called Raising of the Dead, and it's anybody and it's everybody, any age, everywhere, everybody jumps in. So, which that like brings me to tears, like huge tears, knowing that the United States has that in place. And then when I was communicating in mental telepathy, and this is back when I was in Oklahoma. I think I was in Oklahoma City. I was in my son's second apartment, and people around the world had come on, and they were talking in my brain, and people were saying they probably have this all over the world, this same kind of thing, this all hands on deck kind of thing. So I think people were like, they wanted to go make sure that everybody has this, I think, because this was astounding, and this was pulling in everybody everywhere into an apocalyptic situation, okay, and an apocalyptic terrorism situation. And so I'm looking at my son, and I'm like, I know what's ahead, and I'm bawling. I'm so emotional, and I just want his world to be perfect. And what I can do is make him aware of what's going on. Even at the time of telling him, if he thinks I'm crazy, I know my son. He will process, he will absorb. Eventually he will realize, hard to believe, my mom isn't crazy. But anyway, so the snakes in England, they said the snakes, those African fire-breathing snakes, they're about 20 to 30 feet long. They're longer in England than they are here in the United States. So I was talking to England about, they wanted to know about the snake terrorism over there. So anyway, so back to myself being in Dallas again. So I was in I had this quarterback snake underneath me, and then I had these African fire breathing snakes, and these suckers are mean. You don't know fear. I lived this day in and day out. Like, I really thought I was going to die. The fear is permanently in me. Like, it's in me. Like, I have super sensory perception to everything that has to do with snake. So I can smell them, I can feel them. The thing I have a hard time with is watching the ground, because she moves my eyeballs around, and so if I try to focus at the ground, she'll move my eyes around to make it look like the ground is moving when I'm trying to hold my eyes still to see if the ground is moving. These things are so big that they literally move the ground. You can see the ground raise and lower. You can feel it and you can see it. But if I'm in a car and I'm looking and I can't feel it underneath me, because the pressure, the feeling of it, the pressure of it is different. Like if you're in your car, you think you'd feel it in your car as much as looking out the window at the ground, but that's not the case, because it's very, 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 very subtle. Okay, so you can't feel it like in the car on the ground underneath you. That would have to be a bigger movement. So I watch out the window, and I'm looking at the ground, I'm always paying attention to everything everywhere. heightened senses when it comes to snakes. So anyway, so the African fire-breathing snakes, those are some mean suckers. The quarterback snake was like, I'm boss. Like, he took like possession of my room under the floor. He was like, this is my spot. I'm going to kill this human in this bedroom someday, and I'm going to sit here until I crash through the floor and kill it. I mean, it was like, it was staying there. It was like, this is my spot. The African fire-breathing snakes moved around. They moved all over the place. Everywhere I went, they went. If I walked outside, they were underneath me on the concrete. I would walk up to the store, they would be underneath the street. I'd walk into the gas station, go get a pack of cigarettes, go do something, and they would be underneath the floor in the store. Like, they're literally underneath the street, okay? So they're everywhere. I've felt them under the ground here at in stores here underneath Walmart. I've felt them underneath Alcoholics Anonymous. I feel them underneath me where I'm at work. I feel them underneath me here at where I live here in Tulsa on 79th. You know my address, you know where I live. So anyway, I can feel them. Now the ones here are like play toys to whoever's or whatever is doing what, which things could flip into pure ass violence real freaking quick. Because in Dallas, it was a very, 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 it's violent here too. There shouldn't be wild freaking snakes under the streets anywhere, blowing up fumes on anybody anywhere. There shouldn't be any of that at all. That is terrorism. And if somebody tells you that that's just the way that it is, no, that's not just the way that it is. And see, what that also does is that creates like snake wars. That's like drug wars. It's like create snake wars. So Gene Roberts runs around saying it's the government doing it, it's the Marines doing it, it's the government doing it. And what do you think people are going to do if they feel like their government is in control of their government? What do you think the first thing people are going to do? Give me some of them snakes. There's one of them, I'll put a perimeter of them underneath my house. One of them gets near me, I'll kill the SOBs. People will buy them. And people buy them for fun, for sport, to terrorize. And people will buy them for protection, to protect her moving her snakes. Like, it's just, it's nonsense. This is ridiculous. They're everywhere. So anyway, so the snake, I fell asleep. And as soon as I fell asleep, one of them, I don't know if it was the African fire-breathing snake or the quarterback snake, it growled at me. It hissed so loud in the room, it sounded like a growl. Like, I can't even growl. It sounded like a violent growl. Not even like a hiss, like a growl. It scared the shit out of me so bad, because at any time I can expect one to like go through the floor. And what they do is they blow up steam up underneath the floor. So if your floor is wood or any of that material, it disintegrates it. It makes it weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And eventually, bling, there's a gigantic snake in your house. I've witnessed and have felt them doing that, where they get closer and closer and closer to the surface of the floor, because everything is saturated and everything is wet. So anyway, it scared the ever living hell out of me, and then my heart like flipped. As soon as my heart flipped, it scared I couldn't believe this. It didn't scare the quarterback snake. It scared the African fire-breathing snakes. Like, they took off. And I didn't understand that. Like, I'm not a snake doctor. I don't know. I'm just like experienced. I'm like, what is this? They literally took off. It scared them. They took off. Like, did they think I died and so they weren't interested anymore? Or did they think quarterback snake was going to eat me and they thought they'd get the hell out of the way before they get eaten too? Like, what was going on? But they were like, phoom! Like, I could feel the whole floor going, they were like, phoom! But anyway, so it was a very, very stressful, very, very, very scary time. And there was a lot going on. And this is just one of the examples. But anyways, there was a lot going on in mental telepathy, a lot of people going on and off. I had connections at that time to Arlington Police Department. They were talking to me in mental telepathy. They had just brought in a new chief of police, and she's African American. She's female. She's African American, and she would go on and she would talk to me and she would keep me calm. I'm about to cry. I had one police officer. There was one police officer, a Dallas police officer, in mental telepathy. I was scared to freaking death. I literally thought I was going to die. And I was crying and I was like frozen, like in panic. And I was just like, went into like La La Land, just trying to zone out and trying to ignore everything in my brain. And he lit up my brain, and he came in full police uniform, African American police officer. He came in but this is happening in my brain. My brain lit up. He came in, he stretched out his arms so wide, and he gave me the biggest hug of my entire life. Like, he gave me the hugest hug. Like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Just calm. It's going to be okay. Like, they're literally watching this happen, and they can't do anything about it, and it's killing them. Anyway, as soon as he hugged me, it was crazy. As soon as he hugged me, in my brain, like, I just totally relaxed because I knew that law enforcement was there, and I knew that something really wicked and really bad was going on. I am finding out about this terrorist, and I keep decoding it, and it's freaking Gene Robertson or Manson occult, and I'm like, I'm not near my boys, like, I'm like, I've like, it just goes on and on and on. Anyway, so in this same time period, there is a Native American that came on, and I told you this in the previous podcast. He came on, Jean was on, popping off, telling everybody that she owns the place, and her usual, she's gonna do what she wants, and da-da-da-da-da, and just the usual gimmicky stuff that goes on today, just her same usual self. And he was getting pissed. Like, he was getting super, super pissed. And I was like, he said he was Native American, and he was getting ready to tell her off. I don't remember how the conversation went now at the beginning, but he was getting ready to tell her off. And I was like, oh yeah, Native American's going to rip into her. And so, and it was Jean, and it was her brother. It was all the top leaders of Charles Manson. And he had just he knew what was going on. He knew that they did the World Trade Center attack. He knew that they did the Oklahoma City bombing. He was he was really, really pissed. And he was watching me decode. He was really, 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 really pissed. And they were on just having a good time. They were doing all kinds of horrible stuff in my brain. It was bad. But anyway, so they were doing their usual popping off stuff. And he goes, he said, I said, are you are you a Native American chief? And he goes, I am a Native American chief. And I'm like, and I'm asking, and I'm like, I'm getting to know all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, are you, and I'm like, can you speak for, I'm like, because we were talking about Arizona, okay? We were talking about, and I don't even think I had gotten to, I decoded, a lot about Arizona already, about the had I started? Yeah, I did. I was decoding the triangles and stuff. I had already started decoding all the Abajos and everything in Arizona, and I was following the trail of Gene stalking me and my family all of our lives, and I was finding out all these Abajo locations. I was already decoding. I was decoding Arizona history, and the connections between Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. I had already started. It wasn't until I started decoding biblical history about regarding Arizona that I didn't start decoding that until I was in Oklahoma City. So anyway, when I was in Dallas, so he was already mad. He was super, super, super pissed. And so anyway, so I said, can you, he goes, I'll tell her off. He was like, I'm summarizing his words. But he basically said, I'm going to let her have it, is what he was saying. And I'm like, can you speak? And I'm like, you're a Native American chief. He said, I am a Native American chief. And I say, can you speak for, and it's Arizona. So I'm like, yay, 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 Arizona. So I'm like, can you speak for all Native American chiefs in Arizona? And he said, I can speak for all Native American chiefs in Arizona. So anyway, somebody pulled something to sucker Jean Roberts and her people to go on. And she goes on in my brain, and she's, her usual snotty ass self. And there was a Marine that was on, and that Marine got his ass chewed out by another Marine. I remember that too. That's all in the same time frame. And the Native American chief, he was so pissed. But anyway, they're on, right? The Jean and her Manson occult and this just snot group of people. And the Native American chief, and he didn't tell me which tribe, which I didn't need to know. I'm like, you can speak for all of Arizona? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So he said, I can speak for all of Arizona. And so he told Jean, he said, he's like got her attention, and she's listening to him. And he goes, you took this country from us once. You're not going to take it again, is what he said to her. And everybody went quiet. And then she said something just snide in return. And I knew that was, I was decoding road terrorism too that she had planned, and decoding 9/11 and her hiding out on Native American land in Arizona, trying to blame and frame, like she tries to blame and frame everybody, Native Americans. I'm like, that's not Native Americans. That's you that did that, Gene Roberts. That is you hiding on their land. And they know that she was hiding on their land because they told me. Like, I'm like, on my brain communicating, like, she's hiding here. Look at this. And they were like, wanted to say so much, but they couldn't say. And then one time when I was in Slidell, they said, and it's in my books, in my decode books, they said, they didn't say Gene. I didn't have Gene's name yet. But whoever this group of people is, they said, you can tell Gene, she's a horse thief too. And they were telling me that about Gene. And so I put that in my decode book. And I was like, you were called a horse thief. You're a horse thief. Anyway, later on, I know the phrase, but even at the time of writing it, like I didn't know the phrase. And then later on, someone came on and to talk to me and they said, do you know how significant that is? They called Gene Roberts they called Gene Roberts, but Gene Roberts' name wasn't in yet. The Charles Manson KKK, whoever this group is, they were called Native Americans called them horse thieves. And they're like, they go, you're a city girl. You like the city more than you like the country. So I'm going to tell you, and then they know I grew up in Arizona, but I love the city more. I love the city more. My family, like, probably knows tons more about horses than I do. But they said, let me tell you something. Being called a horse thief is probably the worst thing you can be called. This is a very, very big statement. This person is very angry. So, but I had connection there. I had connection in Dallas. When he said that, you won't take this nation from us again. African Americans were on. They were like, "Roar!" They were cheering. And they're like, that's us too. That's us too. We say the same thing. And then everybody went into big, huge, huge discussions. And I am just like, I feel so humble. I don't even humble. Like I feel like, but you know what I'm saying? I feel so small, not humble. Like I am humble, obviously, but like humble makes me sound like I'm doing an OU. I'm just so humble. No, I felt so small. Like and this is happening. It's in my brain and full discussions in my brain. And I feel like so small, like I can't believe I am so privileged to be a part of hearing this conversation, of hearing this discussion. I'm bawling, I'm crying, everybody's discussing, and Jean is listening in the back end, and how she does today, how she tries to like pivot to me and point at me, and she likes to push stuff into my brain, like for me to like respond, and then I'm like, I just ignore her. Okay, so she was doing that to me, like at the same time. Like she was wanting to like, Rah! And everybody just like, just ignore. They're telling me just ignore. And people are talking, and I'm like, is that the same that's the same person he was yelling at though? Yeah, but African Americans came on later and everybody was talking. Why would they say just ignore her? Why would you be asking why would they say just ignore her? Are you one of the people that needs to be told that? Do I look like I'm a scientist sitting in a computer room where I can see who's signing on and who's doing this and what? And who's who and who's where? Or is this just happening in my brain and mental telepathy? I mean, what is your point in saying that? Because it sounds to me, whoever just said that to me in my brain, you need to be told that. They point to my finger to Brazil, and Brazil said, nope, that's Gene. That's Gene's people that just popped off to you, Christina. But anyway, so that's very, 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 very significant, very powerful. It's so powerful. This went all the way to the White House. Joe Biden came on. George Bush was on. I got to talk to George Bush. I was talking to George Bush about 9/11, but regarding this conversation, George Bush, he could never get on. He would always try to go on, and Gene Roberts would kick him off. And people would get so pissed. He wanted to be a part of all this conversation because she wanted to treat everybody like garbage and then try to sucker and lure people later and then trap people. I'll let you find out everything that's going on. Just do this here, and then they're trapped in there with their, and they're like, somebody better arrest Gene, present day. Somebody better arrest Gene. Anyway, so Joe Biden came on, like it went all over the White House. It was amazing. But anyway, so I want to talk about, there's so much I want to talk about. I've got a lot going on here. Another thing that she did was, I'm at 15 minutes. Let me just do this here. Another thing she did, another of her Charles Manson knick-knack paddywhack, the word, she committed stolen valor. Okay, guess what else she did? She spun the word traitor. She's a traitor. See all the homonyms and the synonyms and the letter exchanges and everything else? Traitor. All forms of the word traitor. And including, she did the World Trade Center attack. So do you get what I'm saying in all of it? Traitor, stock trader. There's all kinds of stuff going on. She did that with that word. And she's a traitor. So that is the end of this recording.